Is it rolling, Bob?
Is it rolling, Bob?
Is it rolling, Bob?
So, hi there everybody across the universe. This is Chris Gregory here. This is Bob Dylan, a head full of ideas. We're on season 4, and today we're going to talk about one of the biggies. This is All Along the Watchtower, and this is subtitled The Wind Began to Howl. All Along the Watchtower is one of Bob Dylan's most celebrated songs. It holds the record for performances. Dylan's played it over 2,000 times, often as an encore or a closing number. In writing the songs for John Wesley Harding, where it first appeared in late 1967, Dylan demonstrated his ability to write short, suggestive lyrics, which he does to tremendous effect here. Watchtower is a prime example, consisting only of 3 verses of 4 lines each. Yet it has an epic scope and has been subject to multiple interpretations. This effect is largely achieved by the way Dylan, as he does in a number of songs on the album, seamlessly mixing modern colloquial language with archaic and biblical terminology. The musical structure of the original recording is simplicity personified. The acoustic guitar plays a repeated haunting riff backed by bass and drums. Dylan's harmonica fills in the gaps between verses and ends the recording. The entire song is only 2.5 minutes long, although of course we listen to it probably seems to be a lot longer than that. Jimi Hendrix's brilliant cover version, released just a few months later, lifts the song onto another plane, punctuating the verses with inspired guitar passages that supply a musical interpretation of the implications of the lyrics, so creating a bona fide rock classic on which the many cover versions which have followed have been based. When Dylan himself began performing the song on a regular basis, he used Hendrix's version as a model, which is quite a compliment because it's something that Dylan doesn't often do. Hendrix was, of course, the most talented and imaginative guitarist in rock music history. No doubt about that, really, is there? The genius of his interpretation of the song was that he somehow appeared to understand the apocalyptic implications of the lyrics on a visceral level and was able to express them perfectly through the mastery of his instrument. In his take on the song, as well as in much of his other material, he gave voice to the fear of nuclear extinction that hung like a dark cloud over the 1960s in the wake of the Cuban Missile Crisis. Hendrix himself had briefly served in Vietnam, and it's no surprise that the music he made in his brief career from 1966 to 70 is often associated with the war to which so many anti-establishment groups in the USA and across the world were so vehemently opposed. The beauty and majesty of his guitar playing, with his extensive and uniquely imaginative use of echo and reverb, somehow suggests the violence of the age, but tempers this with the dark, unknowable beauty and an aching for a sweeter, fairer world. Never has melody and musical distortion been fused so effectively, in a style which epitomizes years of cultural ferment with stunning eloquence. To argue that All Along the Watchtower is about Vietnam or about the Cold War is just to reduce its suggestive lyrical power. But the consciousness of these elements is a feature of all of Hendrix's music. In this song, he found the perfect vehicle to express the hopes and fears of his audience. The first 2 verses of the song consist of a conversation between 2 figures who are identified only as the Joker and the Thief. Jokers, or jesters, or fools, and thieves are stock characters in the Bible, Shakespeare, and much of the entire Western literary canon. Dylan's lyrical restraint here pares down their exchanges so that what they say appears to have tremendous resonance and suggestive power. It's not until the 3rd verse, which Christopher Ricks and others have argued persuasively is the real opening of the song, that any physical or historical context for the conversation is suggested. The Joker's desperation in the first verse is tempered by the thief's more relaxed attitude in the second. They appear to be suggesting different ways to deal with a very threatening situation. Ironically, it's the thief rather than the Joker who has a more light-hearted attitude. The figure of the Joker, most famously epitomised by King Lear's wise fool, is traditionally portrayed as both a trickster and a truth-teller, the only one who can honestly express the reality of a situation. Such is the role of satirical comedians even to this day. But here the Joker gives a decidedly sober account of the crisis that he, and presumably his whole world, is up against. The song begins, "There must be some way out of here," said the Joker to the thief. "There's too much confusion. I can't get no relief." Words which perfectly summarise not only the claustrophobic cultural context of the late 1960s, but the entire existential crisis which is about to unfold. The Joker then piles up evidence of oppressive forces that are plaguing him. "Businessmen, they drink my wine, ploughmen dig my earth. None of them along the line know what any of it is worth." Not a word is wasted here. The contrast between the contemporary sounding businessmen and the medieval ploughmen is immediately noticeable, placing the action of the song in a highly ambiguous historical context. The reference to businessmen suggests that the Joker has been exploited by those who prize material gain above all, while the ploughmen appear to be digging into his very soul. Dylan's use of the terms wine and earth here have a particular resonance. The line could perhaps have read, "Drink up my blood," as in Stuck Inside of Mobile, whose railroad men are said to drink up my blood like wine. The blood-wine catechism is central to the Roman Catholic Mass, in which the wine that supplicants taste is meant to be transmogrified into their Saviour's blood. It seems that the representatives of material greed are drinking his very lifeblood. The Joker may be speaking for all humanity, whose planet is being ravaged by the ploughmen, perhaps symbolising the spiritual and existential extraction of its lifeblood. It is suggested that both the businessmen and the ploughmen are draining away the Joker's humanity, and therefore that of all of us. The final line of the verse strongly suggests that both businessmen and ploughmen are spiritually bereft, without any understanding of the damage they are causing. The thief is another literary archetype who may be a figure of liberation like Robin Hood or Aladdin, or an evil trickster like Loki in the Norse mythology, who's constantly scheming to undermine his opponents. In Tears of Rage, one of the as yet unreleased basement tapes, which Dylan had recently written, the anguish chorus ends with, "Why must I always be the thief?" The Thief of Fire is a common mythical archetype in many cultures as an explanation of how humans have appropriated physical power over nature, the Greek hero Prometheus being perhaps the most well known. The Thief of Fire is a character who does not always handle this responsibility well. Robert Oppenheimer, the inventor of the atomic bomb, was characterized by this phrase on more than one occasion. Dylan's thief certainly appears to be a trickster. He begins by kindly reassuring the Joker that there is no reason to get excited, because there are many here among us that feel that life is but a joke. Here, the thief cleverly manoeuvres himself into the Joker's home territory. Perhaps he is worming himself into the Joker's affections, but he soon makes clear that whatever situation they're facing is beyond a joke. "You and I," he tells him, maintaining his friendly facade, "we've been through that, and this is not our fate." The colloquial phrase, "we've been through that," is a decidedly modern one, suggesting shared psychological experience. It could be that the thief is merely being sympathetic, but he may also be secretly trying to gain the Joker's confidence. The thief's entreaties are followed by one of the song's most chilling lines, as his blandishments suddenly turn towards a dark reality. "Let us not talk falsely now," he tells the Joker, "the hour is getting late." This, of course, is a very simple statement which can be interpreted in many ways. We might imagine that the two figures have a mission to complete and that the thief is reminding his companion of this. On the other hand, the implication may be that the philosophical discussion they've been having may soon be entirely irrelevant. At this point, Hendrix launches into an extraordinary guitar solo, juggling two instrumental themes, with the music building and building in intensity to suggest an apocalyptic conflagration. It is only in the final verse, as we switch to a third-person narrative, that the conversation appears to be placed in any physical situation, but even this is highly ambiguous. Although this might well arguably be the first real verse of the song, it is crucial that it is placed here, as it works very much like a cinematic flashback. Dylan merely draws pencil outlines of the scene, leaving us to fill in the rest. All along the Watchtower, the narrator tells us, princes kept the view, while all the women came and went, barefoot servants too. The phrase all along the Watchtower is of course ungrammatical. The word along would normally only apply to a series of watchtowers, but here a kind of magical transformation takes place. The Watchtower now becomes more than just a single dark tower, but a physically unlimited instrument for the surveillance of us all, the conscience, perhaps, of the world. The presence of the Watchtower has biblical connotations which can be strongly associated with the themes of the song. In Isaiah 21, the Old Testament prophet instructs his followers to prepare the table, watch in the watchtower, eat, drink, arise, ye princes, and anoint the shield. For thus hath the Lord said unto me, go set a watchman, let him declare what he seeth. And he saw a chariot with a couple of horsemen, a chariot of asses, and a chariot of camels. The watchman answers, Babylon is fallen, and all the graven images of her gods he hath broken unto the ground. Here we meet the princes who'd been mentioned earlier, who have taken on the role of watchmen. A couple of horsemen are also mentioned. Perhaps these are the Joker and the thief. The declaration that Babylon has fallen has decidedly apocalyptic connotations and is often taken as a prelude to the final conflagration in the book of Revelations, which signals the end of the world and the coming of the millennium, the 1,000 years of peace which is only achieved by mass slaughter on an unimaginable scale. The parallels with nuclear war have often been drawn. In the Bible, Babylon is the place of captivity of the Israelites, and thus an epitome of all the evil in the world. The final lines of the song, with their suggestive menace, certainly suggest that the Babylon of our contemporary world is about to crash. Outside in the distance, a wild cat did growl. Two riders were approaching. The wind began to howl. The wildcat may represent untamed nature, complaining about human interference. We are not told whether the two riders are in fact the Joker and the thief, although if this verse really is a flashback, the lines are describing their appearance before the conversation has been held. On the other hand, perhaps they are two additional riders who will, along with the Joker and the thief, make up the numbers of the four horsemen of the apocalypse: death, famine, war, and conquest, whose arrival will signal the end times. It's also possible to interpret these lines in an entirely secular way, or just to drink in their suggestive power. Something major, it seems, is about to happen, but Dylan does not make it clear what the outcome will be. Just as we are forced towards much conjecture about the meaning of the song and its historical and geographical context, so we are left to imagine what this howling wind will bring. Perhaps it really will be the end of the world, or perhaps this will be a wind of positive change, of a revolution of consciousness that will save the world. Dylan wisely leaves these details and those conclusions to us. Having set up a dialogue to consider nothing less than the meaning of life itself, he leaves us to figure the solution out for ourselves. Is life, and not just individual lives, but the lives of all humanity, really just a joke? Or is it far more important and precious than this? All along the Watchtower is a masterful concoction of extreme opaque symbolism mixed with dark prophecies. But rather than merely allowing us to imagine an orgy of mindless destruction, as in a sensational Godzilla movie or the Book of Revelation itself, the openness of the symbolism it uses creates a space in which we can imagine that, although our civilization might appear to be doomed, another future is possible. In Dylan's original version, the final short harmonica solo trails off quickly, leaving us to contemplate our actions and our choices. Yeats's great poem, The Second Coming, ends with a terrible beauty being born into the world. In Hendrix's version of All Along the Watchtower, the guitar now spirals off into the infinite distance until it finally fades away, suggesting that, despite the fact that we may be at the edge of destruction, a new kind of beauty, which is beyond terror, is already being born. Yes, well, quite a song, isn't it? All Along the Watchtower. I do hope you've enjoyed that, and I'll be back again next time with more of this kind of thing. Do check out my website. That's www, as usual, chrisgregory.org. There's lots of writing on Bob Dylan there, lots of podcasts and lots of other stuff too. See you next time. Bye.
Is it rolling, Bob?
Is it rolling, Bob?
Is it rolling, Bob?